In the early 20th century, the war to end all wars didn't end war at all. It stoked the fires of change. A traumatized world was ripe for change. The world was ready for modernism. Modernists wanted to forget history, or at least reinterpret it. More than just a style, modernism applied to virtually all forms of creative expression. Innovative artists like Picasso, Eich or Dali, they all started looking at their world differently. Other artists tried painting light itself. These were the Impressionists. Surrealists went a bit further. We had entered the age of the isms: Cubism, Symbolism, Futurism, Constructivism. All these new modern ways of looking at the world blew people away. When it came to architecture, modernists were intrigued by emerging technology. Concrete, glass and steel featured heavily in their buildings. Modernists believed that they could design a better society. Ornamental indulgence was considered a frivolous waste of effort. They thought function should always dictate form, and that mankind's intelligence, creativity and capability for radical thinking should be celebrated. Take the Russian inventor Georgy Krutikov. He suggested an idea for a city held aloft by electrical currents. This at a time when there was barely enough wattage to keep the lights on. Not everything they designed was a resounding success. But you could argue modernism was the single most influential movement of the 20th century. From house music to housewares, tables and chairs to graphic design, all have been created by the aesthetics and ideas of modernism.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Hey, good morning, friends and neighbors. What do you say? It is Monday, April 7. Can you believe it? Welcome to the Bill Press Show this Monday morning. Hope you had a great weekend, able to kick back and relax, recharge your batteries, and are ready to go to tackle the big stories of the day today. That's what we do every day, of course. We'll tell you what's going on. You tell us what it all means to you and to your families as we come to you live from our nation's capital and our studio right here on Capitol Hill. Well, on this Monday, hopes are getting slimmer and slimmer and slimmer by the day down in the South Indian Ocean, where there is still no debris found from missing Malaysian Airlines Flight 370. And while one ship reported hearing one faint ping over the weekend, they haven't been able to tie that to the missing airline either. And now the batteries, time has passed where the batteries have run out on those flight locators. It looks like more and more we may never know what happened to Flight 370. Here in Washington, President Obama getting more heat for his deportation policy. The New York Times reporting that out of all of those deported under this administration, President Obama has deported more people than George Bush did in 8 years. That 20% of all those deported had committed no crime more serious than a traffic violation. Nonetheless, they were sent out of the country. Civil rights activists have demanded that President Obama cease that practice. And on the subject of immigration, Jeb Bush told a gathering at his father's big birthday party that he thinks illegal immigration is really an act of love because people come here to help out their families. That certainly sets him apart from other Republican candidates. Just one of the issues we're going to be talking about this morning. Give us a call at 866-55-PRESS. Good to have you here for the Monday program.
This is the Bill Press Show.
California, or the Golden State, has been in the midst of a 3-year drought, and this year, some scientists predict could be the driest in 500 years. Governor Jerry Brown declared a state of emergency in January and in February of this year. The world's 10th largest economy, California is also the United States' top agricultural producer. Half of all our fruits and vegetables come from California. The Golden State is not the only place on the planet struggling for this vital resource. In December 2013, the World Resources Institute found that 37 countries face severe water shortages. Free Speech TV would love to know what you think about this fight for water, especially if you're from the Golden State. Please call our comment line at 1-888-378-8855 or email us at comments@freespeech.org. to let us know your thoughts.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Don't look at me. Your hair's a bit frizzy today. Oh, you should pick that up. Oh, you're such a dork. Loser. Here, let me help you with that. Oops.
Every day, kids witness bullying.
Oh, look. Your crush is looking at you. Poor you.
They want to help, but don't know how.
See, no one here's gonna help you, because no one
Teach
likes
your
you.
kids how to be more than a bystander. Visit stopbullying.gov.
If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. You could lose everything. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
When some people struggle with their mortgage payments, they become frozen, petrified. Not knowing what to do, they do nothing. But the people who take action are far more likely to get the most positive outcome. Making home affordable is a free government program. Call now to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about the options that are right for you. Real help, real answers, right now.
Washington, D.C. What's going on? Hey, good morning, everybody. What do you say? It is Monday, April 7. This is the Bill Press Show. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Good to see you. How was your weekend? Hope you had a good time. Chance to kick back. Watch a lot of basketball. Watch a lot of baseball. Have a lot of fun with the family. And here we go. Back into the work week here, with a full slate of issues to talk about this Monday morning. And we'll bring you up to date on what's going on here in our nation's capital. That's where we're coming from, our studio on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C., just down the street from the United States Capitol building. The Senate will be back in session today. The House not back until tomorrow, I believe. We'll tell you what's going on here in our nation's capital, around the country, around the globe, and then open up the phones, open up the social media, and take your comments. Your calls welcome at 866-55-PRESS. Your comments welcome on Twitter, as always, at at BP Show, at BP Show. And on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. Here we go, and look who's here this morning. The whole team assembled this Monday morning. Peter Ogburn and Lisa Murphy. Hello.
Hey.
Good morning.
Alicia Cruz here, all the way down from suburban Maryland, way out around Baltimore. Here's got the phones covered, and Cyprian Bolding from Bowie, Maryland, is here. He's got the... I don't want everybody to know.
Nobody knows what you're talking about.
Germantown, Maryland. We come from all over. I just want you to know, we make a special effort to get in here every morning. And I have the longest commute of all. Here we are. So, good to see you this morning. Everything good, guys?
Yes, sir. Happy Monday.
Yeah.
Happy Monday.
Nice weather outside. It's springtime.
It's still a little chill in the air.
It's better than snow.
Better than snow. Yeah, I think we've seen the end of the snow for this season. Yeah.
I wouldn't be so sure.
Everything good.
I'll put it this way. I wouldn't be surprised if we got more.
Had a good trip over to Rehoboth Beach, Delaware over the weekend. Carol and I celebrating our wedding anniversary and had a good time.
Happy anniversary.
Oh, happy anniversary. That's exciting.
Very exciting. And
how long?
A few years.
All right.
Had a couple of good meals over there and saw a good movie. So we went out to see, in addition to having some great beach walks, we went out to see the Grand Budapest Hotel.
Very nice.
I'm dying to see that.
It is so quirky and so weird and so funny and so good.
You just described every Wes Anderson movie.
Yeah. I mean, Moonrise Kingdom, phenomenal.
Yeah. Royal Tenenbaums.
I don't
is
think
another
I
great
ever
one.
saw that.
Oh, you have to see that. You'd love it.
Yeah.
Especially if you're a fan.
His first big movie, he had an early movie called Bottle Rocket, which was good, but his first bigger movie is called Rushmore, and it's one of my favorite movies ever. It's
a great movie.
So good. And he just continues to get weirder and quirkier. And,
well, this is the story of this great old hotel and the man who owned it and how he came to own it, and it's just such... I mean, there's so many twists and turns, unexpected twists, and it's very fun. And it has a killer cast. I mean, Ralph Fiennes is the star, who is phenomenal. But, F. Murray Abraham is a big problem. Just trying to think who else. Adrian Brody shows up. Bill Murray just does, one appearance.
I think he's in every Wes Anderson movie.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Is Jason Schwartzman in this one?
He was in Moonrise Kingdom.
He's in all.
Jason Schwartzman?
I don't know if he's in that one or not.
Don't know, but I mean, no. These people keep popping up, and
he has this weird way of finding dozens of name actors, and even if they have a small part,
yeah,
they do a really good job in it.
No, I heartily recommend it. Yeah.
All right.
Did you watch any basketball over the weekend?
I watched a little basketball.
Big game.
I watched a little basketball. Yes, sir. I watched a little basketball. Watched a little baseball.
Yeah.
Good weekend for you.
Yeah. No, it was for that, and that's fine. He pulled one off yesterday. Did not. We're not swept by the Braves. But when we left on Friday, they were still undefeated. By the end of Friday, they were no longer undefeated.
They were fighting to have a winning record.
And tonight is the final playoff, right, with the March Madness NCAA, and it is Kentucky and versus Connecticut. Florida went down, so Magnus does not win.
Magnus is done.
All right, so I have to ask, who ended up winning the bracket in this group here? Just in this group, I just want to know who's the winner in this group here.
I mean, nobody won because nobody had the.
Oh no! You don't count.
Nobody went to the final.
Don't count. You don't even play. Cyprian is the scorekeeper.
Look at how
Cyprian has the.
You know damn well who had more points than anybody else in our bracket.
May I just say, for the second year in a row, the man who knows the least about basketball won the bracket. May I just say, okay, I just want,
I wouldn't take a whole lot of pride in this one.
Why not? I won.
How many tickets did you have in the Final Four?
It doesn't matter how many lottery tickets I bought. I won the lottery.
You're first among the worst.
Do you want to say who you chose to win, so just you can roll it off your tongue for one last time?
Louisville. Yeah, all right, so now I got to be for Kentucky. By the way, I didn't realize 5 freshmen starters for Kentucky.
Yeah.
Kentucky, here's the thing. Kentucky had a not great season, right? In terms of how Kentucky plays. Like Kentucky usually just dominates, right? Their season was not great. But they got hot at the right time, man, and they are
That's all that counts.
freakish right now. They're
Yeah.
so good.
Yeah, right. So there we go, man. I'm telling you.
I'm pulling for Kentucky.
Me too. They played really well.
You know, they're both underdogs, UConn and Kentucky. So I mean, you can't really you can't really
And
say
you know-
one's an underdog, but they're both underdogs.
I have to say also, pardon me. Shame on us. We haven't paid any attention to the women,
Yeah, that's right.
right? And,
No, I mean, people just don't watch women's college basketball.
well, they should, you know.
Sure, but they don't.
I know. I'm just saying, but we should do better about that.
All right.
So
I think Penn State is ranked number 1 in the women's right now.
I know that Maryland got
No, they're
dumped by
not.
Notre Dame. Over
That's
the
what I
weekend,
saw over
so-
the weekend.
Yeah, it's UConn Notre Dame for the national
It's
championship.
UConn Notre Dame for the national championship.
It's
Is that also tonight or?
No, I think that's Tuesday night.
Okay.
I'll
All right.
put something to forward.
I just want to say that next year we're going to do a better job. We're going to do a women's bracket too.
Oh,
right.
equal.
Okay, right. And is Magnus? Is he like in deep depression because Florida didn't win?
He has no idea.
Oh,
He doesn't care. He genuinely didn't care. I mean, that was the rule among the house. Like I wasn't really good. I wasn't going to do a bracket because I wanted.
you
to
can tell him
praise
that I am proud that he is second best.
him. Oh,
Yeah, I want you to
and
say-
talk trash
Yeah.
to my 6-year-old.
Yeah,
About you.
yeah.
I'll do that, boss.
Tell him he may be good, but he's not as good as.
Close.
All right, so there it is. We will be reporting and talking about the big winner tomorrow morning. Coming up, we will be doing the Hotline, a regular Thursday, Monday. What day is it? Monday edition of the Hotline. Reporters coming up from The Hill and Politico. And then one of the chief directors of Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of America will joining us just a little bit later. But first, one of the start with
This is the
actually, we're not going to start with that. Let's change your plan.
Sorry, that's the Q word there.
I know. He heard but first. Okay. Sorry, Peter.
That's all right.
You just ate up too much time on the movie.
I'll talk to you
here.
next hour.
Yeah, exactly. I know. You've got the full court press waiting for the next hour. The story I want to start with today is the story that really caught my attention, and maybe yours too. And that is that Mozilla Firefox has a new acting CEO at any rate. Their CEO suddenly stepped down last Thursday. His name is Brendan Eich. And what's very interesting is he stepped down not because of anything wrong that he had done on the job. He stepped down not because he had done such a lousy job that Mozilla's shares and stocks were plummeting or anything. No big scandal at the office. No big screw up, on the technological side or anything. He stepped down because he, and therefore the company, was getting so much heat because it was revealed that he had contributed $1,000, not a lot of money, but he had donated $1,000 back in 2008 to Proposition 8. That is that controversial measure on the California ballot, which shot down same-sex marriage. Remember, the Supreme Court in California had approved gay marriage. The opponents, particularly the Mormon Church and the Catholic Church, put up tons of money and put Proposition 8 on the ballot, which overturned the Supreme Court decision. And now, of course, with same-sex marriage having turned around in public opinion, and particularly in California, having such strong support, and in state after state after state now, judges are ruling that a court's ban or even a constitutional ban on same-sex marriage is unconstitutional. Public opinion has turned around so much that Mozilla, the company, started getting a lot of heat when it was learned that their CEO had been on the other side of Prop 8. In fact, Peter, you gave the story last week when some people were going onto the dating website OkCupid, using Mozilla Firefox as a search engine to get there, right? Something would pop up on their computer saying, welcome to the site, but don't use Mozilla Firefox to get here, right? Go back and come in through
Safari or Internet Explorer or Chrome, whatever.
Right, or whatever, but don't use that. And that started building up so many problems for the company that Brendan Eich basically was forced to walk the plank. Wouldn't you have to say that?
Yeah.
Yeah, he resigned, but he didn't resign because he wanted to.
He wanted to spend a little more time with his family.
Yeah, at least he didn't say that. So the question is, should he have been forced to walk the plank because he gave a personal, by the way, so just to be clear, wasn't done on company time, was not company money, was his own money on his own time for a cause that he believed in. So that's over here, right? Should he have been forced to resign from this great company that he's running over here on this side because of something he did and a contribution he made on his personal time? Even some liberals are saying, no, that's personal. He's got freedom of speech. He's got the same rights to express his opinion and take any political opinion he wants in his own time. His job should not be impacted by that. What do you think? 866-55-PRESS, the toll-free number. Should Brendan Eich have been forced to walk the plank? You know what? I think absolutely. I mean, two things about this. Number one, it does show how fast and how broadly public opinion has shifted on the section of marriage equality. Even 5 years ago, you could not stand up if you were a politician or a public figure or a celebrity or a CEO of any kind. You could not stand up and say, I fully support same-sex marriage without getting pummeled, without getting just trashed, without losing your position. Today, it's just the opposite. You cannot be, except for the extreme right-wingers that you don't expect, Tea Partiers, where you don't expect any change. But even for mainstream Republicans today, it's almost impossible for anybody today, and I think this is great as a country that we've moved this fast. It's almost impossible for anybody in public life today to stand up and say, I oppose same-sex marriage. It is dead wrong. That's not what God wanted. Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve, that old crap. Right? You couldn't do it today. You could not do it, get away with it today, number one. But number two, I think this guy's got to realize, if you are, I'm sorry, it comes with the territory, dude. Nobody forced you to take this job. If you're head of General Motors, or you're head of Mozilla Firefox, or you're the anchor for NBC News, or you mention it, or you're the president of CBS News, mention any high-profile position, right? You're the head of Morgan Stanley. You are the public face of that company at that time. And anything you do is going to reflect on that company. And if you do something stupid, you're going to have to pay the price. It may not be fair, but I think it goes with the territory. So should Brendan Eich have been forced to step down? I say absolutely. 866-55-PRESS.
This is a lot like the Duck Dynasty situation, where one of the characters said something very homophobic, and they decided that they were going to put them on a hiatus, put them on a little leave there.
Yeah.
Because when you're an employee of a company, you are responsible for your actions.
Right.
Personal time, personal money aside.
Yeah. Especially when you are a big deal. You're a big public figure, and Brendan Eich certainly was, as was the guy from Duck Dynasty. So I think maybe a lesson learned here for the business world. 866-55-PRESS. Was he unfairly forced to walk the plank? I don't think so. Let's talk about it here Monday morning.
This is the Bill Press Show.
I have run these canyons for 6 million years. Rocky Mountains, to the deserts, through scorching heat and freezing cold, from the land of the dinosaurs to fields of food.
I lend my hand to 7 states, 2 countries, 9 national parks,
and 36 million people across an arid West.
I am not the strongest or the largest, but I am the hardest working.
People love me.
My playfulness,
My beauty,
my power,
my life. But I don't think I can offer any more.
I am tired.
I am tired,
tapped,
and tied. Of the hundreds of major rivers in the world, I am one of the few who no longer kisses the sea.
Battles to harness my soul have been won and lost. Use me wisely, and I will sustain you.
Use me like you have, and I will break. My name
is
Red. The Grand River Red. The American Nile.
The Canyon Maker. I am the Colorado River.
And I am the most endangered river in America.
This is the Bill Press Show.
26 minutes after the hour, Mozilla Firefox Brendan Eich forced to walk the plank because back in 2008 he gave $1,000 to Proposition 8 opposing same-sex marriage. Maybe his real problem is because at the time, as some have pointed out, most politicians didn't support same-sex marriage either. But he has not backed down at all, refused to, and a lot of Mozilla employees had signed a petition saying that they thought their CEO should resign. Lots of comments on this, calls and Twitter comments. Peter?
We're on Twitter at BP Show. BP Show, if you want to chime in. Jessica says, money is speech. He spoke up and people don't like what he had to say. Your personal life follows you in your public life. He should know better. And Don Griffith says, I think he resigned due to all the social media bashing he took. Which is true. He certainly took a lot of it whenever this story came out.
Yeah, no, I think that's probably right. If he had been just Joe Schmo working for Silicon Valley,
right,
maybe nobody would have known or paid any attention. But he was the CEO of the company, and in that technological world, particularly, it's a pretty. Silicon Valley is a socially liberal leader, actually, in California. The people there, and particularly in that community and in that industry, he felt the pressure, and I don't feel sorry for him at all. George in Chicago. Hello, George. What do you say?
Good morning, Bill.
Good morning. What's up?
Well spoken, like you said. Silicon Valley, you're in the internet business. You're selling a product. If you're going to be at the forefront of your industry, I don't think that you can be against equality. I just don't think it's possible in today's day and age.
It's hard to connect the two, right? And say, yeah, you can be basically a homophobe or a bigot and run a big internet company, right?
And I entirely agree that it's his personal opinion that he believes in this ideal. However, like you said, he has employees behind him that have to consider, when they go to the poll,
right,
or when they go to work.
That's right, George. It goes with the territory.
This
well said, George.
Is
Thanks
the
for
Bill
call.
Press
More
Show
calls coming up?
So this is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing down, I want you to just push the area.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
California, or the Golden State, has been in the midst of a 3-year drought, and this year, some scientists predict could be the driest in 500 years. Governor Jerry Brown declared a state of emergency in January and in February of this year. The world's 10th largest economy, California is also the United States' top agricultural producer. Half of all our fruits and vegetables come from California. The Golden State is not the only place on the planet struggling for this vital resource. In December 2013, the World Resources Institute found that 37 countries face severe water shortages. Free Speech TV would love to know what you think about this fight for water, especially if you're from the Golden State. Please call our comment line at 1-888-378-8855 or email us at comments@freespeech.org. to let us know your thoughts.
So we're looking at the case of Brendan Eich, who was the Mozilla CEO of Mozilla Firefox until last Thursday, when there was enough pressure building up among Mozilla employees and the high-tech community in the Silicon Valley to force him to resign as CEO, because it was revealed, people went to court to get the list of contributors to Proposition 8 back in 2008, which overturned the Supreme Court's approval of same-sex marriage in California, would have made California, I think at the time, either the first or second state to approve marriage equality. But Brendan Eich was on the other side of that issue. He gave $1,000 to Proposition 8. Interesting, at that time, even President Obama was not out in support of same-sex marriage. He wasn't writing checks to the opposition. But Brendan Eich did, and as head of that internet company, Mozilla Firefox, it just became too uncomfortable for him, too much bad publicity coming to the company. People urged not to use it, to go to different websites, and he stepped down. Was he, in fact, forced out? 866-55-PRESS is a toll-free number. And I think that's not the question. He was forced out. Was he unfairly forced out is really the question. By the way, Bill Maher talked about this the other night, Saturday night, and he said this just proves that there is such a thing as a gay mafia.
Also, I think there is a gay mafia. I think if you cross them, you do get whacked. I really do.
Yeah. I don't think it was necessary. It was partly, but not entirely, the gay mafia in this case, right? I think it was the progressive mafia, if you will, that struck Brendan Eich down. Let's say hello to John. John's up in High Bridge, New Jersey. Hello, John. Good morning.
Good morning, Bill.
Yeah, what do you think?
I think that if you'll remember, Keith Olbermann donated $2,500. And his feet were held to the fire by the Republican mafia, so fair is fair.
Yeah, remind me, Keith Olbermann gave to a few congressional candidates, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it was the legal limit at the time, too. It was the $2,500.
Yeah, And by the way, he did that on his own time, right?
Yeah, his own dime, his own thing. Just
his own dime, his own time, his own money. But you're right. He was part of the public face of MSNBC. You're right, John. I forgot about that. Yeah. Fair is fair.
That's the thing here is when you are a public figure and you are someone who's high profile within a company, that company has the right to run their business, for the most part, how they would like it to be run. And so if they feel that you are bad for business,
right,
then they have the right to part ways with you. And if this is the guy that's the head of Mozilla Firefox, and he personally is opposed to gay marriage, and people notice that and talk about that, then they're talking about their brand.
Right.
So you have to say, yeah, I mean, it's right for him to go.
You know, and particularly this industry, I think it differs by industry because I was just remembering Chick-fil-A, right?
Right.
Now, the head of the head of Chick-fil-A, same issue. I think he changed his position, but he said at the time he wouldn't basically would not serve same-sex couples. Wasn't it?
That's part of it. And then the other bigger part of the Chick-fil-A thing is they were giving money. The company was funding these groups that were opposed to any kind of gay participation.
Now, a lot of people said at the time, myself included, I'd never walk into one of those restaurants because of that.
We still don't go, my family. I mean, we don't go.
Now, I don't know. Has he backed down?
No.
He is not.
No, they're still doing their thing. They're still giving money to these far right Christian groups who say that.
Are they refusing service to?
No, they've never refused service to any gay couples.
Yeah, right.
That was never an issue. But the issue was that they were giving money to groups.
But I think that does make the point I was making is that I think it does depend on the industry.
Mm-hmm.
Chick-fil-A, basically in the South, in a restaurant business, for rednecks, can get away with it.
I think that's one way to put it. Yeah.
Okay. Well, not all the customers are rednecks, but a good portion of them are. Right? You couldn't get away with that. All I'm saying is, if this guy, whoever he is, were in the Silicon Valley,
right,
he couldn't get away with it.
Right.
If he had a chicken franchise in California, he'd be shut down.
Yes. I think that's a good way to put it. Look, you had mentioned that you cannot be opposed to gay rights these days and still be in the public eye. I think that you can if you're Rick Santorum or if you're Mike Huckabee, but if you want to actually talk to people on a national level and have a real conversation, you're right. No, you cannot anymore be opposed to gay marriage.
Right. I'll bet you, I don't know where he stands on this, but I haven't heard. But like Jeb Bush came out yesterday and said on immigration that for somebody to come into this country illegally is not a felony, which it's not. And he said it's not even a criminal act. It's illegal, but he says it's not a criminal act. It's an act of love. So Jeb Bush, that's pretty extreme. I think he's absolutely right. But it's pretty extreme for a Republican and certainly sets him apart from other Republican candidates. If he runs for president, I'd be willing to bet, if he hasn't already done so, Jeb Bush will come out for same-sex marriage.
Yeah.
The Republican Party cannot continue to stand against marriage equality.
I think you're right.
For all those reasons we talked about. And again, Chick-fil-A might be able to get away with it, but Brenda, I could. And was it unfair? I don't think so. I think, just, again, goes with the territory, as I'm concerned. Yeah. Good comment on that. And one other big issue that's coming up today, it's the lead story in the New York Times this morning. And it's one that where President Obama continues to get some flack, and I think rightfully so, and that is the issue of immigration, particularly the sub-issue of deportation. We've talked about this before, that what's happening is President Obama is absolutely right. He is pushing comprehensive immigration reform. God knows he's trying to get it done. He's put a plan out there. He's rallied Republicans and Democrats trying to get them behind it. But for a variety of reasons, mainly because of the fact that he wants it, Republicans in Congress are against it. So we've seen no action on it, even though after Mitt Romney got trounced in the Latino vote, getting only 27% of the Latino vote, a lot of Republicans came out and said, if we don't do something about immigration reform, we're going we'll never win the White House back as a party. So on that issue, President Obama is right. But in the meantime, while we're waiting for comprehensive immigration reform, President Obama, under the Department of Homeland Security, has been rounding up and deporting people at a rate of 1,000 a day. These are people who would qualify under his plan for a path to citizenship if that bill were passed. But right now, yes, they are here illegally, and if they're found at the workplace or whatever, they're given a 7-minute hearing. They're not even allowed to go home, a lot of them. And none of them are allowed to go home, but a lot of them have families, not allowed to go back and say goodbye. They're just put on a plane and they are shipped out of the country. And this a lot of immigration organizations have been petitioning the administration to stop this practice and to slow it down. Well, the New York Times is reporting this week, making it even worse, reporting this morning that for 20% of those people deported, because the administration insists, we're only going after hardened criminals. We're not going after everybody, just people who have really broken the law. According to the New York Times, 20% of the deportations are people who've done nothing more serious than get a traffic ticket. Mm. They're stopped for speeding. They're stopped for running a red light or, making an illegal right turn or who knows what. And they found that they are not here legally. And just because of that, they're ripped away from their families, ripped away from their jobs, and deported from this country. Boy, when is President Obama going to finally get the message? He's asked for a study of this to see what improvements ought to be made. He ought to pick up the phone to the Department of Homeland Security and just say, stop this nonsense. We'll talk more about that a little bit later. Take a quick break and then come back and talk to Scott Bland, who is the senior analyst for the national journal Hotline, and get his take on some of the big issues today. This Monday morning edition of The Bill Press Show.
This is The Bill Press Show.
It is possible to read the history of this country as one long struggle to extend the liberties established in our Constitution to everyone in America. In other words, who, according to our laws and culture, gets to be considered a person? The law creates legal personhood, and movements create law and change culture. So, how have the courts passed laws to shape our culture? That history goes way back before Citizens United. 1819, Dartmouth College versus Woodward, Supreme Court case, turned a corporate charter from a government-granted charter to a contract. This ruling gave corporations standing within the Constitution. 1886, Santa Clara County versus Southern Pacific Railroad. Though the court did not rule on corporate personhood, the decision was subsequently cited as a precedent to hold that a private corporation is entitled to the same 14th Amendment rights of due process and equal protection as human beings. This makes it impossible for us to make laws that treat local businesses any differently than giant multinational corporations, even if their business practices are deemed to be harmful to workers, the environment, and communities, or if they have a history of violating the law. Hale versus Henkel, 1906. The court granted corporations the Fourth Amendment search and seizure protection. Dodge versus Ford Motor Company, 1919. The Michigan Supreme Court says the business corporation is organized and carried on primarily for the profit of the stockholders. Stockholder primacy is established. The purpose of the corporation, according to the court, is no longer to serve the public good, as it had been. It is now to maximize profit for shareholders above all else. Pennsylvania Coal Company versus Mahon, 1922. Corporations get the Fifth Amendment takings clause, meaning if you pass a regulation that impacts a corporation's ability to make a profit, that is deemed a taking, and they can sue for the right to future profits lost. This creates a chilling effect, and local and state governments become much more hesitant to pass laws in the public interest for fear that corporations can claim loss of potential profits that cities and states will be on the hook to pay. Buckley versus Vallejo, 1976. The Supreme Court rules that spending money to influence elections is protected under the First Amendment, in effect saying that money is speech. Citizens United versus Federal Election Commission, 2010.
Today, the Supreme Court of Chief Justice John Roberts declared that because of the alchemy of its 19th century predecessors in deciding that corporations had all the rights of people, any restrictions on how these corporate beings spend their money on political advertising are unconstitutional.
The court's ruling threatens to undermine the integrity of elected institutions across the nation. It's a rejection of the common sense of the American people.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
Here we go at 12 minutes before the top of the hour on a Monday morning, April 7. Getting back up to date on what's going on at the White House and here on Capitol Hill in the United States Congress. Nobody better to do that with than Scott Bland, a senior analyst at the National Journal Hotline, joining us again this Monday morning. Hello, Scott.
Hi, how you doing?
Hey, all right. Good to have you with us. So after we talked last week, President Obama stepping forward. I was there in the Rose Garden announcing 7.1 million signups for Obamacare. This certainly brings the whole debate over health care to a whole new level, doesn't it, Scott?
Yes. After the slow start to the online signups last fall, a lot of people really didn't think that this target of 7 million was really going to be attainable, but it looks like they hit it and cleared it by a little bit, and so it does give a little bit of a shot in the arm to the White House. The real question coming up next is, in a few months, the premium rates for 2015 are going to come out, and depending on the makeup of the enrollees and other factors that have nothing to do with Obamacare,
right?
Those rate hikes are going to become the next big question in the healthcare fight.
Well, there will always be questions about it. You know, how many people have actually paid their premiums? How many people? What are the demographics and all of that? But you can't take away from the astounding feat of getting 7.1 billion people lined up. Do you think this will that Republicans are still going to push repeal as a viable option?
Yes. Viable. I guess it depends on how
realistic.
Well, I guess it depends on how you define viable. But in terms of campaign strategy and campaign rhetoric, absolutely. I think Obamacare repeal is here to stay for the foreseeable future as a Republican plank. Ron Brownstein at National Journal had a really interesting column in our magazine last week comparing the Obamacare fight to fights over other social programs in United States history, and this is one of the longest running fights at this point. Right. He compared it to Alf Landon running against Social Security in 1936, or Goldwater running against Medicare in 1964. But by the next presidential election, those were essentially settled, and Republican candidates had moved on to taking repeal off the table.
Right.
That does not seem like it's going to be the case here. And as we approach 4 years of repeal rhetoric and positioning from the Republican Party, and so it's really interesting to see how this is playing out in that historical perspective too.
Yeah, I know it worked so well for them in 2012. We'll see how well it does in 2014. Scott, I know you've been writing about the other big story of the last week, the Supreme Court decision on McCutcheon versus Federal Election Commission. Partly funded, that case, by the Republican National Committee. They're the ones that stand largely to benefit from it, correct?
Yeah, the party committees are some of the forces that are really going to see benefits from this, and that includes Democrats, by the way. Democratic Party officials fought against this, but now that it's happening, they intend to play by the same rules, just like President Obama embraced super PACs eventually.
Yeah, the question
during
is,
his re-election run.
Will they have the enough players? There's certainly enough players, starting with Sheldon Adelson on the Republican side.
Sure. No, that's absolutely a really interesting question. As far as I saw, the really interesting, despite it's not clear what the immediate effects of this decision will be. What the long-term effects could be incredibly disruptive, though. As soon as the decision was handed down, a lot of campaign finance observers and attorneys and advocates were already looking toward what could be the next case and wondering whether this decision opens the door to further challenges to contribution limits in general, possibly to the limit on what one individual can give to one candidate, which is really the bedrock campaign finance law.
Yeah. Oh, it will. I mean, even Justice Thomas in his dissent said this doesn't go far enough, and I don't think there's any doubt that Chief Justice Roberts would like to see all limits struck down.
It's very interesting, actually, that Justice Thomas has this history of writing concurring opinions that go further than where the rest of his conservative majority on the court has been willing to go at the time. But eventually, a lot of those decisions end up kind of forming the basis for later challenges, and which have often succeeded.
And finally, Jeb Bush yesterday over the weekend said something very interesting about illegal immigration actually being people coming here illegally, coming here as an act of love. I don't think you're going to hear any other Republican candidate for president make that take that same position, would you, Scott?
I don't think so. Not after what happened to Rick Perry in 2012. Obviously, Perry's problems were largely of his own making.
Right.
But immigration continues to be a big issue for the base. It's one of the reasons why the House hasn't moved on it. Mm-hmm. And it'll be interesting to see for a very long time we've seen Republican candidate after Republican candidate kind of rise and then fall, both in the 2012 and 2016 presidential races. Yeah. It'll be interesting to see what happens with Jeb.
Yeah, you might ask Marco Rubio about that. Hey, Scott,
exactly.
Thanks so much for joining us today. As always, Scott Bland with the National Journal Hotline.com.
This is the Bill Press Show.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where the ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Columbine, Virginia Tech,
Tucson,
Aurora,
Fort Hood, Oak Creek,
Newtown.
Newtown,
Newtown.
Newtown.
How many more?
How many more? How many more colleges? How many more classrooms?
How many more movie theaters?
How many more houses of faith?
How many more shopping malls?
How many more street corners?
How many more?
How many more?
Enough.
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 Demand a plan.
Right now. As a mom.
As a dad. As a friend. As a husband.
As a wife.
As an American.
As an American.
As an American.
As a human being.
For the children of Sandy Hook.
Demand a plan. No more lists of names. It's not too soon.
It's too late.
Now is the time.
Before we all know someone who loved someone on that list.
No more lists.
No more.
Who they might have been. No more.
If we had just done something yesterday. It's time.
We can do better than this.
We can do better than this.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time for our leaders to act.
Demand a plan. Right now.
Right now.
You! Demand it!
Enough.
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 None of us would want to be told we can't marry the person we love. As Americans, we believe in freedom. That's what I fought for as a Marine, and that's what we believe in as Republicans. Freedom means freedom for everyone. I didn't used to understand the importance of same-sex marriage, but after learning my brother was gay, I wanted the same rights for him. He was the best man at my wedding, and I want to be the best man at his. It's only fair that Calvin should have the freedom to marry the person he loves, too.
It's time for marriage.
All right, Peter.
Quick story about the NCAA tournament, Bill. We know that you won the office pool, although Astasia points out on Twitter, Warren Buffett was the real winner of the office pool. He didn't have to pay anyone $1 billion for the perfect bracket. So congratulations to you and Warren Buffett.
You mean I won, but my bracket wasn't perfect?
Perfect. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, well, all right. Warren Buffett, wait till next year.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Hey, good morning, friends and neighbors. What do you say? It is Monday, April 7. Can you believe it? Welcome to the Bill Press Show this Monday morning. Hope you had a great weekend, able to kick back and relax, recharge your batteries, and are ready to go to tackle the big stories of the day today. That's what we do every day, of course. We'll tell you what's going on. You tell us what it all means to you and to your families as we come to you live from our nation's capital and our studio right here on Capitol Hill. Well, on this Monday, hopes are getting slimmer and slimmer and slimmer by the day down in the South Indian Ocean, where there is still no debris found from missing Malaysian Airlines Flight 370. And while one ship reported hearing one faint ping over the weekend, they haven't been able to tie that to the missing airline either. And now the time has passed where the batteries have run out on those flight locators. It looks like more and more we may never know what happened to Flight 370. Here in Washington, President Obama getting more heat for his deportation policy. The New York Times reporting that out of all of those deported under this administration, President Obama has deported more people than George Bush did in 8 years. That 20% of all those deported had committed no crime more serious than a traffic violation. Nonetheless, they were sent out of the country. Civil rights activists have demanded that President Obama cease that practice. And on the subject of immigration, Jeb Bush told a gathering at his father's big birthday party that he thinks illegal immigration is really an act of love because people come here to help out their families. That certainly sets him apart from other Republican candidates. Just one of the issues we're going to be talking about this morning. Give us a call at 866-55-PRESS. Good to have you here for the Monday program.
This is the Bill Press Show.
California, or the Golden State, has been in the midst of a 3-year drought, and this year, some scientists predict could be the driest in 500 years. Governor Jerry Brown declared a state of emergency in January and in February of this year. The world's 10th largest economy, California is also the United States' top agricultural producer. Half of all our fruits and vegetables come from California. The Golden State is not the only place on the planet struggling for this vital resource. In December 2013, the World Resources Institute found that 37 countries face severe water shortages. Free Speech TV would love to know what you think about this fight for water, especially if you're from the Golden State. Please call our comment line at 1-888-378-8855. or email us at comments@freespeech.org to let us know your thoughts.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Don't look at me. Your hair's a bit frizzy today. Oh, you should pick that up. Oh, you're such a dork. Loser. Here, let me help you with that. Oops.
Every day, kids witness bullying.
Oh, look. Your crush is looking at you. Poor you.
They want to help, but don't know how.
See, no one here's gonna help you, because no one
Teach your
likes you.
kids how to be more than a bystander. Visit stopbullying.gov.
If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. You could lose everything. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
When some people struggle with their mortgage payments, they become frozen, petrified. Not knowing what to do, they do nothing. But the people who take action are far more likely to get the most positive outcome. Making home affordable is a free government program. Call now to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about the options that are right for you. Real help, real answers, right now.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Cherry blossoms in Washington, D.C. What's going on? Maybe by the end of the week is what they say. Hello, everybody. Great to see you today. It is Monday, April 7. And this is the Bill Press Show, and we are booming out to you live from our nation's capital, our studio right here on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. Good to see you today. Hope you had a good weekend and are ready to jump into the big stories of the day from our nation's capital, from around the country and around the globe. We'll tell you what's going on. You tell us what it means to you and to your family, to your community. You know how to do so. Give us a call at 866-55-PRESS. Send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show and on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. Peter Ogburn and Lisa Murphy here, leading up our team this morning.
Hey.
Good morning. Happy Monday.
With Alicia Cruz on the phones and, as always, Cyprian Bolding on the video cam. Thank you, team. Good for you to be here.
Happy Mondays.
Happy Monday. Yeah, it's a good weekend.
Yes, indeed.
And to take a look at what's happening in Capitol Hill and what we might expect out of Congress in their brief time together this week, Seung Kim covers the Hill for Politico, and she's kind enough to come in studio with us this morning. Seung-min, nice to see you.
Good morning.
Yeah, everything good?
Everything's great. Great to be back.
Thank you. Good to have you back. We, I just don't know. On this Flight 370, the latest is that a Chinese ship and then one other ship thought they heard a faint ping.
The ping.
Somewhere in the Indian Ocean, and that really got hopes up again this weekend. The commander down there for the U.S. Navy, Commander William Marks, says this could be what we've been looking for.
We did hear two signals. There was very similar frequency ranges involved coming from different locations. That's actually pretty encouraging because remember, there are two black boxes involved.
But every time they've cited debris, it turns out the debris is just plastic bags from somewhere else. No debris yet. Not a piece of that missing plane has been found. And with these pings, I read where somebody else said, it could easily be sound from another ship, or it could be whales. I mean,
it was amazing to see over the weekend how when they heard that ping, how CNN just leapt into action and ditched whatever coverage they had going on to go right back into flight coverage.
Breaking news.
I should get breaking news hits on my phone and watch live press conference on CNN and bang, bang, bang. They went right back into it, man.
Right. But, and as of now, the black boxes are no longer emitting any sound, I think, because their batteries would have run down by now.
Right.
I don't think we'll ever know. I've reached the point where it's either aliens or we'll never know.
I mean, every day that goes by, it's going to be harder to find out what happened or if we're ever going to find anything. So I would not be surprised at this point if they just said, we certainly gave it our best effort to find it.
I mean,
it's
someday, maybe
area.
years and years and years from now, somebody walking on a beach in Tasmania might find a piece of something that has 370 on it, or Malaysian Airlines or something on it. But boy, what an incredible mystery, and remains so. So Seung-min Kim's here for the first half hour. Talk about this end of Pennsylvania Avenue. Justin Sink, who covers the other end of Pennsylvania Avenue for the Hill, the White House, will be along. And in the next hour, one of the leaders of the group Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of America will be here in studio with us. We'll get right to the news of the day. But first,
this is the Full Court Press.
The biggest stories of the day.
Just a couple other stories making news. The Connecticut Huskies are playing for the national championship of college basketball for the men and the women. Tonight is UConn men versus Kentucky Wildcat men for the national championship.
Red hot, man.
By the way, just so you know, over 11 million brackets were entered on ESPN. Out of those 11 million, 1,780 picked a UConn-Kentucky matchup.
Wow.
So a very, very small percentage. Meanwhile, the women, ladies, finalized their final last night. It's going to be Notre Dame. They beat University of Maryland. And UConn ladies over Stanford. So it's Notre Dame, UConn in the women's final, which will take place on Tuesday night.
Tuesday, huh? Yeah.
Yes, indeed. So set your TiVo. We don't stay up late to watch either game. Men or women. Right. You've heard of the Cronut, Bill, the hybrid croissant donut that's sold at Dominique Ensel's Bakery in New York. Well, today you will not be able to get a Cronut. His bakery was shut down due to a mouse infestation.
Oh, no.
Guy's got to have, the most popular bakery in all of America, and on Friday, the city closed down, said he has to take care of this. They expect that it will be up later on this week, but for now, it remains closed. So if you were planning on waiting in the Cronut line, you're out of luck.
What's interesting about that is that proves that mice can communicate. Because obviously word went out in the mouse world. The best goodies. are
This
at
is
this.
the hot new thing.
Mice like
It
cronuts.
jumped on the trend.
It just didn't happen.
That's a good point, though. I didn't
Oh.
think of it that way. I didn't think of it that way. And you saw Grand Budapest Hotel
I don't know
over
whether
the
they use
weekend.
Twitter or whatever. However,
Yeah, I
they
don't
got
think
the
they're
word
using
out.
Twitter. I don't think they're
This is
using
social
Twitter.
media.
You mentioned earlier you saw Grand Budapest Hotel over the weekend. I
Very.
went out and saw Captain America, the Winter Soldier.
Oh, you did, yeah.
Which broke the April box office record. It brought in $96.2 million this weekend. The previous record was held by Fast 5 when they pulled in $86.2 million. Overseas, it's also doing very well. Captain America movie has already brought in $194 million.
But that's not the question. The question is, how good is it? A friend of mine saw it over the weekend and said it was average.
Here's the deal. The
Grand
first
Budapest Hotel was fantastic.
I was taking the kids.
Fabulous.
The kids aren't going to go see Grand Budapest Hotel. But the first Captain America movie, horrible. Terrible. I did not like it at all. This one was much better.
But that still doesn't answer the question.
Hey, look.
How good is it?
It's a popcorn movie. It's good. It's not great. It's not as good as the Avengers or the other comic book movies that they put out. It's good.
Bill, I think you saw the better flick this weekend.
Yeah, I think I know which movie I'm not going to go see. Yeah. All right. That's all I need to know. I mean, I know I had to twist it out of you, but just say it stinks.
It's a good movie. I didn't say anything other than it was a good movie.
Let's talk about something else that's getting box office attention. Seung Kim, immigration reform. Yeah, a little attention to immigration reform might be a good idea. Is it going to happen this year?
Most likely, probably not. I hesitate to say that it's dead. Every time that we've declared it dead, it's somehow risen back up from the dead.
I know.
In the last several months. So it's.
I'd given up. I'd given it up for dead a long time ago, but it does seem to still has some, pulse.
Sure. I mean, if
as weak as it may be,
anything, it'll be in the next couple of months. I mean, people I talk to don't think lame duck's a possibility. Clearly, right before the elections, nothing is going to happen. If something's going to happen, maybe May or June, but that's a very, very small chance. And right now, everyone's mostly looking at Obama to act on deportations.
Okay, so the Senate has acted on immigration reform in a bipartisan manner. The real question is whether Boehner will bring it to a vote, or whether or come up with their own plan in the House just to get something on the books, correct?
Yeah. And I mean, they've already said they're not going to do the Senate bills. So they're trying to put together their own plan, but there's very little appetite to do it among House Republicans. They think they have a good thing going with Obamacare before the elections. They don't want to screw that up. And immigration is still a very divisive issue for the conference.
All right, so there are two other ways in which immigration, there may be some action on immigration. You mentioned deportations. I'm going to get to that in just a second. But the first is there was a thought that one thing Republicans might agree to do is put a rider on the defense bill that those who are serving in the military, put on the uniform, defending this country, who are not yet citizens of the United States, might be giving some DREAM Act status.
Sure.
Where is that right now?
So that popped up pretty quickly and then died pretty quickly last week. What happened was that there's a congressman from California. His name is Jeff Denham. He's one of the most. You can definitely say he's one of the most pro-reform House Republicans out there. He comes from a district that's 40% Latino. He's married to an immigrant. This has been one of the big issues for him. Obviously, facing a tough race in November, one of the few House races that actually is. And he's also a veteran, so he has long pushed this proposal that would give kids who are here illegally, if they came here before the age of 15, it would give them a green card if they serve in the military. The thinking is that if you're willing to die for the country by serving in the armed forces, you should probably be allowed here legally.
Yeah, I don't think that's too radical an idea,
What happened, though, was that, so this became public, I believe, last Wednesday. It wasn't too big of a surprise. Congressman Denham has actually tried to do it last year in the Defense Authorization Bill, which is the same bill he's trying to attach it to this year. Last year, he was talked down mostly because chances for comprehensive reform were still very much alive, and people convinced him to kind of hold off for the bigger bill. Yeah. But now, with things looking very dead in terms of reform in Congress, he's looking for a must-pass bill to attach this very this legislation that's very important to him. But conservatives revolted, and for now, it's not going to go in the bill. But whether it's going to get attached on it is another question.
Conservatives revolted. You said I find that revolting.
Oh.
But what was their argument against it? I mean, seriously, as you point out, they put on the uniform, they put themselves in harm's way, put their lives on the line for this country. They wouldn't do that if they didn't love this country. They were brought here. These are kids, if I call them that, who were brought here as children at any rate.
Yeah.
And they happen to still be here illegally through no fault of their own. What's the argument against giving them some legal status?
There's two main arguments that popped up. One was that they think a lot of these conservatives thought you shouldn't attach anything that seems unrelated or controversial to a
they
must
do it all the
pass
time.
bill. That was one argument.
They
from
do. I know, but they do it all the time. I mean, they put stuff in the defense bill that has nothing to do with the Pentagon. Right.
And then the other argument
anti-abortion riders they put in the Pentagon bill.
And then the other argument is that they thought it was just philosophically not right to grant these kids just basically amnesty. They thought this was just another way of granting amnesty to people who are not here legally. And they thought even if these are the most sympathetic type of immigrants, the kids usually are, and by giving them one of the toughest routes to citizenship, which is serving in the military, they still think that was what they call, one Republican called it blanket amnesty.
Oh, yeah.
And basically created this firestorm of criticism that killed it pretty quickly.
Yeah. What's sad about that is that these Republicans who pride themselves on being so pro-military and so supportive of the armed services, that there are not other Republicans who would just take on these racists, I would call them, who would be against something like that and say, come on, you can't have it both ways. You can't say, we support, and this is obviously not directed at you, I'm just venting here. You can't say you're a supporter of the Pentagon and really support the military and honor our men and women in service, and then take this position against these men and women who are willing to put themselves on the line. So that's not going to happen, you're saying, right?
It's not going to happen for now. It's not going to happen in the actual bill that's going to be released sometime next month. But Congressman Denham insists that he's going to bring it up for a vote. He does have the right to do that. He can try to put it on his amendment. So that's a battle we're going to be seeing play out later this year.
All right. And in the meantime, the Obama administration is pursuing its policy of mass deportation. More than so far than under the entire presidency of George W. Bush, correct?
Yeah, exactly. The 2 million. I mean, it's the precise numbers are difficult, but I wouldn't be surprised if we hit the 2 million mark by now already.
And immigration activists are raising hell about this?
They are raising more than hell about this. They had protests all over the country on April 5th. Just this past Saturday was their national day of action to bring attention to this issue that's been so harmful to their community. If there's a big New York Times report that dropped last night that said most, believe 2/3 of people who are deported were deported on very minor infractions, and that's obviously causing a lot of buzz and discussion in the community as well. And obviously, President Obama said last month that he's undertaking that review of his enforcement policies. We don't know how long that's going to take, but we expect, any day now, any week now, pretty soon.
Seung Kim here from Politico talking about immigration reform, particularly troubling, I find, as you mentioned, this New York Times report on the massive deportations, 1,000 a day, continue under the Obama administration, even though many leaders, particularly in the Latino community, have called on him to halt that practice. 866-55-PRESS, the toll-free number. Join our conversation here at any time. Your calls, your comments, welcome on immigration and other issues facing the Congress. With Seung Kim, we'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
I have run these canyons for 6 million years. I have traveled from the Rocky Mountains to the deserts, through scorching heat and freezing cold, from the land of the dinosaurs to fields of food.
I lend my hand to 7 states, 2 countries, 9 national parks,
and 36 million people across an arid West.
I am not the strongest or the largest, but I am the hardest working.
People love me.
My playfulness,
My beauty.
my power.
My life. But I don't think I can offer any more.
I am tired.
I am tired,
tapped,
and tied. Of the hundreds of major rivers in the world, I am one of the few who no longer kisses the sea.
Battles to harness my soul have been won and lost. Use me wisely, and I will sustain you.
Use me like you have, and I will break. My name
is
Red. The Grand River Red. The American Nile.
The Canyon Maker. I am the Colorado River.
And I am the most endangered river in America.
This is the Bill Press Show.
26 minutes after the hour now with Seung Min Kim from Politico here in studio with us, talking immigration reform, among other issues. The Latino caucus, under the chair, Luis Gutierrez, correct?
Ruben Hinojosa.
Ruben Hinojosa.
Yeah.
Luis Gutierrez has been one of the most outspoken on this. It's called on President Obama to halt his practice of deportation. And as you point out, and I got this wrong earlier, friends, when I mentioned this New York Times report, I mentioned the 20%. It's 20% who have been involved in serious crimes, and maybe one would say, including drug-related offenses, might merit deportation. 2/3 involve people who've committed minor infractions, most of them traffic violations, or with no criminal record at all. Now, Seung-min, I have raised this issue at the briefing with Jay Carney. And what I was told, and others have been told who've raised the same question, is that the administration's position has been, until we get comprehensive immigration reform, we have no choice. We just have to enforce the law. So the administration is trying to have it both ways on this, aren't they?
Yeah, they're in a rock and a hard place because one of the biggest reasons, or some would say excuses, but what House Republicans have given for not doing immigration reform is that there's a deep distrust within their conference that whatever laws they write, no matter how tough it is, that Obama's not going to enforce it. A lot of Democrats have tried different ways of getting around that, but that's been one of their chief reasons on why they're not doing it. So if Obama goes around and uses more of his executive authority to stop these deportations, then that's really going to kill the chances of reform altogether.
Yeah. So they think they have to continue to act tough, right, while pushing immigration reform.
Sure. And it's a very difficult position to be in. But I think right now, especially with the review that you're seeing from DHS, we're going to see something. It's not going to be as much as what the community wants. I mean, the Hispanic caucus is asking for everyone who would qualify under the Senate bill. I don't think that's going to happen.
Okay. Thanks so much for coming in, Seung and Kim. Thanks for your good work.
Is the Bill Press Show.
So this is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing dot, I want you to just push the area.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan. Thank you. And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you. Oh, man. Yeah. Well, have a good one. You're a nice lady.
Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press Show.
Hey, how about it? Make it 33 minutes after the hour now on a Monday morning, April 7. It is The Bill Press Show coming to you live from our nation's capital. With the regular team here this morning, Justin Seung joins us for this half hour. He and I see each other every day down at the White House briefings. Covers the White House for The Hill. Hello, Justin. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Up early this morning and out here. Yeah.
Monday morning.
Monday morning. Got to get it.
Bright and bushy-tailed. I got lucky. I took Friday off to go to opening day here, and so I'm feeling a little more refreshed than I would normally on a Monday morning. So
yeah. You joined the Washington Stampede. I mean, Washington shuts down. I'm surprised The Hill even published on Friday.
I saw a lot of our fellow White House briefing room people there did not make it in for the briefing that day, but I don't want to rat anybody out who might have been playing hooky.
It was remarkable on Friday because I left here right around the time of first pitch. I didn't go to the game. Nobody. There's nobody in the whole building. I walk outside in the street. There's nobody in the street.
Oh, no.
It's just dead quiet.
Might as well be a national holiday, right? So we've been trying to recover from the Nats losing 2 games out of 3 over the weekend. Also trying to recover from the news this morning about Andy Rooney dying over the weekend. Mickey Rooney, rather. Not Andy, he died a long time ago. Mickey Rooney dying at the age of 93. But the interesting thing about him, Peter, you were reporting, he is married
8 times.
8 times.
8 times.
Can you imagine?
11 kids.
It's nearly one a decade. That's pretty impressive. if you push out the first 13 years, he's got one a decade.
At what point do you have to say and do a little self-examination? You say, maybe I'm not the marrying type.
You'd think that maybe time 1, 2, 3, he'd figure it out.
Right.
At that point, maybe you're having fun with it. You want to go for the record.
Isn't it unbelievable? Right. Have you been married yet?
I have not. No.
Well, you got a lot. I know. You got a lot to catch up.
I know.
Here.
I'm gonna have to go at a pretty quick clip to get 9 or 10 in before.
Yeah. I mean, I'm still on number 1.
So am I.
Yeah.
What's wrong with us?
Yeah.
Right.
We got it all wrong.
At any rate. But that's we'll leave other people to cover the entertainment news. We've got the serious stuff to talk about here. President Obama getting another round of golf in over the weekend?
He did. It's starting to warm up here in D.C., so he's back on the links. And
back at Andrews Air Force Base?
Yeah. He had a long couple of weeks, I know, because we had a long couple of weeks. He was out in Europe and traveling a lot. And so I think this was his first chance in a while to kind of relax for a couple days.
Yeah, you'll be seeing him out there often these days. But he had a good week last week on a couple of fronts. One is, and you and I were there in the Rose Garden when he announced the $7.1 million. That was really talk about a victory lap and a big cheerleading session. It was like a pep rally.
Yeah, it was really striking to me. I think we've spent the last maybe 6 months just seeing the administration so sort of down on what's going on with the ACA, how they're feeling. The momentum coming out of the election was the last time you really saw people with kind of a spring in their step. One thing I was interested about was over the weekend, Dan Pfeiffer was on, I think, CBS, and they asked, was this a victory lap? And he started to try to downplay it. You saw them not wanting to get too far into a victory lap. That's certainly not how it felt last week as soon as they hit that number.
And, by the way, I do not understand that reticence, if you will, on the part of the administration. I think they can be damn proud of what they achieved, given the problems that they had.
It was interesting. You saw Bill Clinton come out last week, and I thought it was really interesting. He said, you're not going to get away from the idea that Obamacare is a Democratic policy, and the controversy is going to exist over the law no matter what. So do what I did during my convention speech. Explain it to people. Tell them what the benefits are. Be proud of it. Don't kind of shy away from it. And, Democrats are looking at the polls. They see that it's unpopular. They're worried about 2014, but it's called Obamacare. You're not going to trick anybody into thinking that you don't own it. And they have reasons to be proud of the law. I mean, millions of Americans who didn't previously have health insurance and certainly didn't have access to health insurance before now do. And so, and it's a story about making government work. I mean, it
is right. It does show that the meme, right, that after the collapse of the website was spread was, this just proves that government can't do anything. You can't count on government to do anything. Well, that's gone now, and the stories about all these people who were frustrated by just trying to get onto the website or sign up, those stories have disappeared. But now I think they've got to replace those with stories, as you pointed out, of people who said, oh my God, for the first time ever, I got protection for my kids, I got protection for my family, I got protection for me. I don't have to, I'm not limited to just going to an emergency room when I get sick. I can do all this kind of stuff. There are tons of those stories out there that Democrats have to, I think, make people understand what's going on.
And we saw during the 2012 election that Democrats kind of got a lot of distance out of bringing up some of the people who had been helped or harmed by the different parties' economic policies. We saw those super PAC ads of people, who had lost their jobs because of things that Mitt Romney's companies had done. And of course, there were a lot of questions about that, but it was a really compelling sort of way to drive voters. And if we're just looking at sort of the politics of it, getting real people on TV, you've seen even Republicans have done this and in fact gotten into some trouble for it. They've brought up these Obamacare stories, and then they get fact-checked, and it turns out, these people who are upset didn't actually go on the exchanges, that sort of thing. But the more you can tell individual people's stories for either side, it really kind of puts a face on some of these debates.
Right. So the very next day after we were in the Rose Garden, Wednesday, President goes on the road. I thought he was going to go on the road, again, part of which I think Bill Clinton would have done, part of a victory lap on Obamacare and Affordable Care, and go out there and say, here's what it is now, you got to get with the program. Instead, he talked about something else in Michigan, which is also an important issue, and he's going to be on again tomorrow, right? Talking about minimum wage, equal pay, equal opportunity.
Exactly.
Economic opportunity, if you will.
Yeah, so on Tuesday he's going to announce a pair of new executive orders.
This is tomorrow.
Tuesday, yeah. Tomorrow, yes.
Just putting in perspective.
Yeah, exactly.
Take a day off, Justin.
I know. I'm still warming up. Still warming up. But he's going to introduce a pair of new executive orders. One prohibits federal contractors from retaliating against employees who talk about their salaries. The other says that federal contractors have to tell the Labor Department kind of general information about what they're paying people and break that down by both gender and race. And both of these are designed to sort of help people expose situations where women or minority workers might not be getting paid the same amount. These are kind of bread and butter issues for Democrats, and something that, we've seen time and time again the president really be able to connect to when he goes out on the street and says, we don't live in a Mad Men era anymore. Women deserve it. I want my daughters to grow up in a world where they have the same opportunity as men. And this is something that really kind of has...
Right. And this follows an executive order, which he signed, one of the first ones, right, which said, right after the State of the Union, that federal contractors have to pay a minimum wage.
Exactly. And
so he's able to do, as CEO of the federal government, a lot related to federal contractors. But this does not cover the great majority of the workforce.
Exactly. And so the Senate's taking up the Paycheck Fairness Act next week. And what we've seen is this very deliberate strategy by Democrats to basically have the president take action in lieu of Congress, set up a vote in the Senate that will put some political pressure on Republicans. And their idea is they're just going to build their case piece by piece ahead of the elections. The trick for them is, with the Senate, where you need 60 votes, they've had trouble. They've had trouble getting a minimum wage vote, certainly. There's been a lot of talk about them
They've had trouble getting some Democrats.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a lot of talk that this 10-10 wage that Obama actually went up to, because that's what Senate Democrats wanted, now will come back down to try to get some Democrats and Republicans on board. The unemployment insurance vote has taken a long time. So, this is a very deliberate strategy that you can see out of the White House. They're planning step by step, but Congress is a difficult sort of beast to wrangle, especially, with the sort of unpredictability of everything. And you have the unpredictability of being president in outside events, as we saw with kind of Ukraine and even this healthcare thing, sort of derailing the president off a message that they've really been trying to build since the State of the Union.
Justin Seung covers the White House for The Hill here in studio with us, 866-55-PRESS. When we come back, I want to discuss with Justin whether or not, in fact, we are already into a lame duck presidency in some ways in terms of working with Congress. It looks that way. Your questions, your comments, welcome at 866-55-PRESS.
This is the Bill Press Show.
In 1920s America, the Great Depression effectively erased consumer demand. Struggling manufacturers needed new ways to get people buying again. Innovative production processes like stamping and use of molds allowed them to use new materials for their designs. Products using vinyl, chrome, aluminium and plywood began appearing. American industrial designers began introducing streamlined, efficient shapes that shouted progress. Bel Geddes pioneered what we now refer to as utilitarian art. Things that had little reason to look sleek, now all of a sudden did. At the 1939 World Fair, featuring Bel Geddes' immensely popular Futurama exhibit, a new era of American industrial design proudly claimed to be building the world of tomorrow. Americans found great positivity in these futuristic forms. Yay. Things were looking up. American industrial designers realized that by making objects look great, people simply wanted them more. From cars to kitchen appliances, the most influential society on earth was spending money again. Mass consumption had arrived. Advertisers finally had lots to talk about. Personal taste could be expressed through the things you bought. Style became equally as important as function. Chair designers like Eames and Saarinen didn't just design seating, they created desirable lifestyles. People behind the products suddenly were stars. Everyone wanted to know who they were. Raymond Loewy was one of the shining lights of American industrial design. His face ended up on every coffee table in the nation. Toothpaste packaging promised whiter teeth. Washing powder packaging promised whiter whites. Who knew such simple household objects would shape the tastes and ambitions of an entire society? American industrial design improved America, functionally, culturally and intellectually, and exported it around the globe.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
13 minutes before the top of the hour. In the next hour, Nick McCormick here from the Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of America. And Neill Franklin, Captain Neill Franklin, Executive Director of the Law Enforcement Agency Against Prohibition, organization, not agency. Right now we're talking White House politics, White House policy with Justin Seung from The Hill. Well, I guess one new policy that we've seen, Justin, at the White House is if you don't already have a selfie with the president, you're not going to have one from now on, right?
I guess so. There's been a big controversy over Red Sox slugger David Ortiz came last week. The Red Sox were here to celebrate their World Championship, and during the ceremony, he hands Obama the jersey, and then he whips out a cell phone. And just like at the Oscars, I guess it turns out that Samsung had paid David Ortiz as a sponsor, and so this was kind of a ploy. And once Samsung, the corporation, started tweeting out this image, it certainly blew up over the internet, but also I think upset a few people over at the White House. So they're saying that because the president's not supposed to be used in ad campaigns and that sort of thing, that they might prohibit the policy. Although I will say, even after this happened, West Wing Week, which is their kind of in-house weekly wrap-up that they put out, came out last week and had a bunch of pictures of the president taking selfies with soldiers and other people. So they might be talking a big game to scare people off. But I think the next time any of you have a chance to corner the president and ask for a selfie, you might be luckier than you think you are. I know Bill will be trying the next time he comes into the briefing room.
You bet.
Freaking out.
Yeah. But I've seen him do this, and he does it. We've seen him in the East Room or wherever when he's working the rope line. People are always trying to do the selfie with him, and he'll stop and do it.
It's a pretty good Facebook photo, you and the president.
Are you kidding?
But it will be interesting to see if they do try to ramp that down out of this concern. I think it would be kind of a shame that sort of these fun moments become, we see this in the press, just access gets tighter and tighter, and sometimes it's the White House trying to control the message, but sometimes it's because people do inappropriate things and go a little too far, and it's always a shame to see that, and it's certainly, as a journalist, makes your job harder and makes it harder to give kind of a real view of what's going on.
That's the thing I was going to mention is the access stuff, because he's already been taking a little heat recently about the access that the White House allows to citizens, reporters or otherwise. And so any excuse that they have to tighten up, they might take that.
Jill Abramson from, you and I were asked to do, I don't know whether you did this survey, but Politico did a survey, and they put a questionnaire out to all reporters who cover the White House. I filled mine out last week. I don't know whether you did or not. We didn't have to do it, but because this is the 100th anniversary of the White House Correspondents Association. And one of the questions was that Jill Abramson from the executive editor of the New York Times has said that this Obama White House is the least transparent, the toughest in terms of access, tightest of any White House that she has ever covered. And we were asked whether we agree with that or not. Do you?
It's tough for me to say because I'm relatively new to the beat, and so I don't have experience under George W. Bush or Bill Clinton. I certainly know that this is something that's been voiced by other reporters who we work alongside and been kind of a frequent complaint. Most recently, there was a big protest lodged by the Correspondents Association over photo access, because in a lot of these sort of small events, there's a White House photographer there, there's a White House videographer there. I mean, the video I just was talking about, these West Wing Week videos, they've got White House cameramen in what might be otherwise a delicate situation. But if somebody from the White House can stand there and take video and take pictures and then release it in their format, why couldn't a member, of a pooled or a wire service or a cable network stand there and take video too? I mean, it's important to see not just the images that the White House wants you to see in those sort of PR stunt type things. And I think that this has been something that the White House has said that they're trying to address. I know that it's something that they're very sensitive to. There's a lot of reporters and people who care about media access there, but those people also very much care about protecting the president.
Yeah.
And
well, like you, I was not there under George W. Bush, so I don't have the comparison. But my experience under this president is that the access is very, very limited, and as you point out, with the photographs particularly limited. Photographers have raised hell about that. So finally, just about a minute left, Justin. What about this issue of, I do get the feeling that with all the problems in Congress, that the president, the administration is kind of checked out of getting anything done in this Congress and almost acting like a lame duck presidency. Do you see that?
I do think that after now 3 years of not having sort of full control of Congress, they've recognized the state of play. They've recognized that Republicans aren't very interested in negotiating unless it's a very sort of dire situation. I'm not sure there's any difference between now and 2 years ago or a year ago when they sort of still understood the state of play. But what will be really interesting is we already saw this week in the New York Times some Republican candidates coming up. Democratic candidates are going to start declaring, and once we get into the election season, it's going to be a real issue for the White House.
Oh yeah. And the possibility of getting anything done will become even slimmer right here on Capitol Hill. Well, meantime, you and I, plenty to talk about and to cover at the White House. Justin Seung does so with The Hill. It's thehill.com. Thanks, Justin. Always good to see you.
Than's for having me.
I'll see you a little later. What is it? 1:15 today, I think.
I think that's right.
All right. We'll be there, and I'll be back quickly and tell you what the president's schedule is today.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
Okay, if you like the first 2 hours, you're going to love hour number 3 coming up. Too bad we're going to lose you on Free Speech TV. But you can certainly continue watching us. Just switch over to the video stream, TawkrTV, TawkrTV, youtube.com/TawkrTV. And in that third hour, we'll be joined by Neill Franklin from the Law Enforcement Against Prohibition organization. And we'll also talk to Nick McCormick from the Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of America. Two very important guests. Stay tuned. Hour number 3 coming up.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
This is the Bill Press Show.
President Obama, busy schedule today. After he gets a daily briefing today, he's going out to Bladensburg High School, nearby Bladensburg, Maryland, to talk about and to present some awards, actually, for a competition that he had launched to deal with real-world career skills in college-level courses. Then this afternoon, he meets with the Commander-in-Chief and Executive Director of the Veterans of Foreign Wars, attends the swearing-in of Maria Contreras Sweet as Small Business Administrator at 3:25 this afternoon.
I'm a Piston fan. Their slogan was, "We come to work." That's what Detroit about. That's why they used it. It's a team thing. They won 2 championships, a team. There was no star. No mayor can come in here and be a star. It's a team thing. No governors can come in here and think you can do it by yourself. It's a team thing. You got communities. They got ideas too. The only thing wrong with Detroit, people have lost hope here. Residents, city workers, so much corruption. They lose hope. But I grew up here. I love this city. I think it can come back. I've been working for the city 24 and a half years. Within the last 10 years, we took 4 pay cuts and then an additional 10% wage cut. I've lost a home.
When you take all of the decisions out of the city of Detroit, all of us, then what do you have? Exactly what we got. A lot of problems. Every time the city seems to fall into a problem, it's always on the backs of us workers.
You wake up out of a dead sleep and you jump behind the wheel and take off driving and try to get everybody there safe, not knowing really what you're pulling up to. Not eligible for Social Security, so the pension is my sole salary at this point.
We've been in business here 39 years. We've seen a lot of changes in Detroit. The area was a lot of industry, a lot of city workers. It's getting very tough for the city workers. It's getting tough for us as a business people.
Response times are increasing because of the closing of companies, which takes your insurance rate through the roof. So all the things that affect us affect the citizens.
I worked for the city in different capacities for 29 years. I feel like an old jacket. They use me up and they throw me away. In my condition, nobody's gonna hire me. I'm 68 years old. Half the times, I can't get my blood pressure medicine. It's either feeding myself blood pressure or paying bills.
$754. By the time they take all the deductions for I have my car insurance, my house insurance, and my health insurance taken out. So the time they take all that, I'll get about $300 after they take all that out. I don't understand it. I can't see how the governor is allowing this to happen and what they're doing and they want to blame it all on the seniors. Not only the seniors, but the city workers. And we worked hard. I know I worked hard.
I've been in Detroit since 1946. I was 14 years old when I came in. I don't live large at all. I wish I could. I don't know when the last time I've been shopping. I only get $1,100, and I'm 81 years old. and I need every penny that I can get and that I do get. And I'm very, very upset about the idea of them taking away my pensions that I worked 30 years for. I think it's terrible that they talk about Detroit like they do, because Detroit has been very good to me.
I have a lot of city workers coming in with their uniforms on, Detroit Water Department, Police Department, Fire Department. I get a lot of people, the Border Patrol come in. So if I lose that customer base, I'm going to be in a position where I might have to close down. If they take away their pensions, if they start cutting jobs, it's going to cut into a large percentage of not only our business, but other businesses that are in the city of Detroit. We're here. We've been here for 26 years. We're still trying to do business in the city.
Detroiters are survivors. They tough. They adapt. But only can do so much when your politicians are ahead of you and we're not on the same team. We're not going to let Detroit be erased, bulldozed, to where we're going to fight to the bitter end. Detroit going to survive.
In the early 20th century, the war to end all wars didn't end war at all. It stoked the fires of change. A traumatized world was ripe for change. The world was ready for modernism. Modernists wanted to forget history, or at least reinterpret it. More than just a style, modernism applied to virtually all forms of creative expression. Innovative artists like Picasso, Eich, Dali, they all started looking at their world differently. Other artists tried painting light itself. These were the Impressionists. Surrealists went a bit further. We had entered the age of the isms: Cubism, Symbolism, Futurism, Constructivism. All these new modern ways of looking at the world blew people away. When it came to architecture, modernists were intrigued by emerging technology. Concrete, glass and steel featured heavily in their buildings. Modernists believed that they could design a better society. Ornamental indulgence was considered a frivolous waste of effort. They thought function should always dictate form, and that mankind's intelligence, creativity and capability for radical thinking should be celebrated. Take the Russian inventor Georgy Krutikov. He suggested an idea for a city held aloft by electrical currents. This at a time when there was barely enough wattage to keep the lights on. Not everything they designed was a resounding success. But you could argue modernism was the single most influential movement of the 20th century. From house music to housewares, tables and chairs to graphic design, all have been created by the aesthetics and ideas of modernism.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, it's April 7. Where are the cherry blossoms? That's what I want to know. By now, they're usually come and gone. We haven't even seen one yet in Washington, D.C. What's the world coming to? Good morning, everybody. It is Monday, Monday, April 7th, the Bill Press Show. We're coming to you live from our nation's capital. Salute you and good to see you this Monday morning. Hope you had a good weekend, are ready to go here as we are with the big stories of the day. Whole team here to help you out. Peter Ogburn and Elisa Murphy. Hello, guys.
Good morning.
With Alicia Cruz standing by on the phones and on the video stream because we are coming to you live all across this land on your local progressive talk radio station and on our video stream seen around the world. Cyprian Bolding keeping us looking good on the video cam. Up to 25 plus countries tuning in to TawkrTV, youtube.com/TawkrTV. I should say people in 25 different countries.
That's right.
Not the entire population of 25 different countries, just to make it very, very clear. Whether you're listening or watching, good to have you with us this morning, and join me in saying hello to Neill McCormick, who is the Legislative Associate Director of the Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of America, or the IAVA. Hello, Nick.
Hey, how you doing? Thanks for having me.
Nice to see you again. Thanks so much for coming in. Tonight, of course, Friday was a ghost. Washington was a ghost town because everybody was at the Nats opening. Tonight will be a ghost town because everybody will be at home or in the bars watching the NCAA playoffs. Kentucky versus Connecticut. You're a big basketball fan. Who do you pick?
I think UConn. Being from Indiana, I'm not much of a Kentucky fan, so my heart says UConn.
Yeah.
Oh, I got it.
The
yeah.
emotional pick.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny. They did that. It was still a big upset for them to win. Wisconsin.
But both of these teams have no business being in the final if you look at them on paper.
Yeah.
Right. But they both played their hearts out in the entire tournament.
Saturday night, John Calipari, the chief head coach of Kentucky. Are they? The Wildcats?
They're the Wildcats.
Wildcats. I thought he was very kind of philosophical about it.
The last play obviously was for Aaron. It didn't. They covered it. We threw it to Dakari because both guys ran to Dakari. Dakari fumbled it, threw it to Andrew, who then threw it to Aaron, who then jacked it up. And we win a game, which is crazy.
Talk about a team effort.
2 games in a row, this kid has hit a game-winning 3. He did it against Michigan. Now he did it against Wisconsin. I expect he'll do the same thing.
Yeah.
When they play UConn.
Okay.
He seems to be their go-to player.
Yeah. I just love that. Yeah. No, we win a game, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Go team. Right. All right. So Neill's here with us for the first half hour, and then Neill Franklin from an organization called Law Enforcement Against Prohibition will be joining us at the half hour. We'll get right to the big, important work of the IAVA. But first, Peter, with the big headlines of the day.
Yes, indeed. Last weekend, CBS's 60 Minutes took a look at the Tesla cars and sat down for an interview with Elon Musk, the creator of the Tesla, except for one problem. They showed some footage of the Tesla out on the road, and CBS added the sound effect of a car revving its engine and driving. Now, if you know the Tesla, you know that it is an electric car, and it does not make any revving noises. It doesn't run with an engine. CBS over the weekend admitted that they added the audio effects, which is something that they do whenever you don't pick up the audio noise from B-roll footage. Not realizing that, the Tesla doesn't make that noise.
Interesting. They're a beautiful car, I have to tell you.
They really are.
They are. And this Elon Musk character, they did a whole profile on him. I actually watched it last weekend. He is a real innovative guy. I mean, he's sort of the next Steve Jobs. He's just big ideas, man. Loud car is not one of them.
I have a quick story. I have a very wealthy friend in California who has done very well, very generous guy. And he heard about the Tesla, was very interested. He's a big environmentalist. He went down to test drive the Tesla. And he liked it so much, he bought 3 of them.
Whoa.
And they ain't cheap.
No, they're not. No, they're not.
He's a big fan.
Last night, HBO's hit series Game of Thrones came back for its 4th season. Except for one problem. If you tried to watch on the HBO Go app that lets you watch live and archive TV shows on HBO, it crashed for thousands of its users. Many users took to Twitter to make sure that their voices were heard. They could not stream Game of Thrones live on their iPad or on their computer. Shows that the streaming video technology is on its way, but still has some glitches.
Oh, yeah. As we discover almost every day.
I had no problem watching it. I watched it live on my television, but for those that tried to watch it on their iPad, they had a problem. And last week, we talked about David Letterman. He said he's retiring next year. So who replaces him? Mashable reports that the top choice to replace him is Stephen Colbert.
Oh, my God.
Stephen Colbert moving from Comedy Central to CBS. Nothing's been made official, of course, but this is where they want to go. That's the direction they want to go.
That makes
I think
sense.
that's a very, very smart choice.
Yeah. I still think it's time that someone other than a white male took a slot at, nothing against us three white males sitting here, but in late night TV, you know, a woman or a person of color might be, would be.
I heard Chris Rock is on the list, so who knows?
Chris Rock should be on the list.
Chris Rock should definitely be on the list. He should be high on the list.
Oh, and Wanda Sykes, too, is a really good idea, Bill. He said that last week.
Nick, you guys have been very, very active here on the Hill lately because we've been talking back and forth with your big lobbying week and the legislation you're working on. Before we get to that, I have to ask your comment on a very, very sad, tragic incident at Fort Hood. Again, last week, 3 soldiers killed. The president will be out there at the memorial service this Wednesday. What does this tell you, something like this happening on a military base?
Well, first, I just want to, reiterate our organization's feelings. We want to send out our thoughts and prayers to those, affected by this horrible, horrible incident. As far as the wider military community, I think what it shows is there are some legitimate mental health concerns within the active duty and veterans community that need to be addressed. And unfortunately, the worst case scenario is something like this, where we see individuals, reacting violently and taking the lives of their coworkers, and then finally choosing to end their own life via suicide. So I think it's a terrible incident and one that deserves a lot of scrutiny and consideration.
But is there sufficient mental health help available to veterans, to soldiers who are suffering these problems?
Well, one of the things that we're trying to take a look at is to see, where the level of care is for members of the military and the veterans community. According to this story, it looks like the individual was undergoing some treatment for some of his issues. Whether or not they were directly related to his service overseas was essentially being looked at, and he's being evaluated for PTSD, but he was never officially diagnosed with that. But again, I think there's just a lot of gaps in care for veterans that we really don't see or hear about a lot in the news. And that's where you tend to see a lot of these sort of awful, awful incidents of veterans ending up taking their own lives.
Right. But a lot of people say, oh, my God, he had PTSD. Therefore, it's no surprise, right, that he would do something like this, which is not necessarily the case.
Correct. I think that's sort of the negative stereotype associated with these sorts of things, is all somebody sees is a headline that says Iraq war vet, homicide or suicide. And really there is no strong science to sort of link PTSD and violence. It turns out this individual was claiming he suffered some injuries from his service, and he was being evaluated for those, but he was not formally diagnosed with PTSD. But again, I just want to make sure that your audience and people listening all over the world are assured that PTSD is not a direct link to workplace violence.
And at least one Republican member of Congress has said, well, obviously the answer is we need more guns on military bases.
Well, we were just talking about, how Congress gets nothing done, and the last thing they're going to get done is gun control. So, it's part of the discussion. I'll give it that. But the problem is, if you're looking for anything to get done in Capitol Hill, it's involving gun control. You saw what happened, I think last year with the Senate passing their, coming up, I think a few votes short of passing some gun control reforms. It just didn't happen, and looking at who's in the House, it's just not, there's no appetite for it. I think it's certainly part of the conversation, but the idea that there's an incident at Fort Hood involving members of the military, so the first reaction should be, taking a look at Second Amendment issues. I think that the issue here is mental health and mental health treatment, not necessarily Second Amendment issues per se.
Right. Now, the lobbying week that, which side of kind of continues because a lot of members of Congress, but you had a lot of your members here flooding Capitol Hill.
Correct.
What are you asking them to do? What legislation are you working on now on Capitol Hill?
Right. So our big issue this year has been our campaign to combat suicide amongst members of the active duty, military, and the veterans community. So our big bill that we're really looking forward and pushing this year is the SAVE Act, Suicide Prevention for American Veterans Act. And it was authored by Senator John Walsh of Montana, the first Iraq war vet to serve in the U.S. Senate. It's got a few co-sponsors at the moment. We're trying to get more and more on the Senate side, and we're looking to get a companion bill in the House. But really, it takes a sort of very comprehensive approach to suicide and mental health treatment for active duty military and veterans, and it just tries to, improve care, improve access, make sure veterans have a place to turn to at some point down the line if they feel they have a need to talk to someone about something as it relates to their service.
And how serious is the problem of suicide among active and veteran members?
It's incredibly serious. We've seen a lot of numbers thrown around. The most recent VA study indicated about 22 veterans a day were taking their own lives via suicide.
Whoa!
So it's those numbers are very unnerving, and there's a lot.
These are Iraq and Afghanistan veterans, particularly.
This is
across the board.
All veterans, across the board. So it's not just. One of the hard things we do with our namesake being Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of America, people think that we're focused solely on the newest generation. That's not necessarily the case. This is an issue that affects veterans of all generations, because we think it's a VA problem. It's a national problem, and we think obviously it affects more than just those of us that are in our 20s, 30s, and 40s.
Mm-hmm.
We think for the longest time these issues have been lingering within the community, and they just unfortunately don't manifest themselves really until it's too late, and that's where you see a lot of these suicides taking place.
Is that a higher percentage of the population, of the military population, than you find in, I guess, among other professions? Or
well, it's kind of debatable. The VA is still wanting to put out a lot more, studies on this and scientific evidence and so forth. But the numbers really are unnerving and unrattling. And right now we're just trying to make sure that the numbers that we do have are, something that Congress is aware of and willing to focus on.
And so your goal through the SAVE Act is to provide more mental health clinics, more counselors, more.
So we're trying to extend VA healthcare services for newest veterans. Right now, if you were to separate from military today, you'd have 5 years to use VA healthcare. The problem is with a lot of these mental health issues, the problems don't manifest themselves until later on down the line. So one of the things the bill tries to do is triple the length of coverage or eligibility for coverage from 5 to 15 years. We also want to institute a number of reforms, having VA evaluate its suicide and mental health programs. Obviously, there's a lot of duplicative programs in government, and we think if we can find what works and really maximize on those, we think that's going to be beneficial. And then finally, something that Congress has been harping on for the longest time has been the interoperable electronic health record issue. The idea that on day one of your military service, someone can't hand you a PDF that says, here's your medical file, keep this with you, essentially until the day you die. But by the time, but long story short, VA and DoD just aren't communicating appropriately, and there's this break in care, and where a lot of veterans get lost in the system and fall through the cracks.
How many people are we talking about now? With the war in Iraq over, right? There's still some military there, but
right.
And the war in Afghanistan ending this year, and the president says all of the combat troops will be home this year. We're talking about a large population of Iraq and Afghanistan veterans.
Correct.
Right.
So we've had more.
Any idea on the number?
We've had more than 2.5 million serve in Iraq and Afghanistan.
Whoa.
Obviously, some of the budget numbers that have been floated out, the idea of shrinking the force, to under 500,000 here in the near future. We're going to see a large influx of new veterans. People are just going to get out because the wars are over. There's just going to be, the recruiting benefits just aren't going to be there. So we're going to see just a large influx of new veterans looking to sort of access VA services. And if there's gaps in care or if they feel it's insufficient, they're going to either turn elsewhere or just sort of forget about it. And that's something we don't want to have happen.
A huge, important segment of the population, Iraq and Afghanistan veterans, 2.5 million, the Iran and Iraq veterans of America, working on their behalf here in the United States Congress and around the country, actually. Your calls and your comments welcome here with Nick McCormick, Legislative Associate from the IAVA. We'll continue our conversation and take your calls at 866-55-PRESS. We'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Don't look at me. Your hair's a bit frizzy today. Oh, you should pick that up. Oh, you're such a dork. Loser. Here, let me help you with that. Oops.
Every day, kids witness bullying.
Oh, look! Your crush is looking at you. Poor you.
They want to help,
but don't know how.
See, no one here's gonna help you, because no one
Teach your
likes you.
kids how to be more than a bystander. Visit stopbullying.gov.
If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. You could lose everything. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
When some people struggle with their mortgage payments, they become frozen, petrified. Not knowing what to do, they do nothing. But the people who take action are far more likely to get the most positive outcome. Making home affordable is a free government program. Call now to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about the options that are right for you. Real help, real answers, right now.
Here at the GED Pep Talk Center, we have pep talkers standing by to get you motivated for your GED diploma. Text the name Terry to 69222 for a sympathetic pep talk.
You show people what you really are.
Or for a gentle pep talk, text the name Deborah.
You know, you're going to make people very proud of you.
And if that's not enough, text the name Danny for an extreme pep talk.
Prove everyone wrong. Show them you're the boss.
Get your GED pep talk and find free GED classes. Text the name of the person you want a pep talk from to 69222.
Did you see the world differently? Did you celebrate the victory?
So today, I state clearly and with conviction America's commitment to seek the peace and security of a world without nuclear weapons.
Did you stand up against our greatest threat? Change the world.
This is the Bill Press Show.
At 25 minutes after the hour, visiting with Nick McCormick, doing a great job with the Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of America. Great organization doing very, very important work. Check out more of their work with you, and you have a little bit of time here together this morning. At their website, IAVA.org, we've been talking about your SAFE Act, which is increasing access to mental health care in many different ways for Iraq and for all veterans, not just Iraq and Afghanistan veterans. Rich Dunn emails in, Nick, the care isn't the solution to our mental health problem. The care is the problem.
Right, so that's one
questions
of the
about the quality of care, I guess. Huh?
It's nothing new that we've heard before from our membership. One of the things this bill tries to do is sort of recruit some of the best minds out there. There's a pilot program in there about student loan repayments, and we think that something along those lines will recruit like the sharpest minds in the field to sort of want to work at VA and work with veterans. So that's just one of the initiatives that we got going on.
Now, you mentioned 2.5 million the population of Iraq and Afghanistan vets, including yourself.
Correct.
To our duty in Iraq. What's the situation with jobs? I know this has been when they come back. These are people who have great skills, important skills, and we need them. But is there a connect now? The First Lady's been talking a lot about this between this pool of talented people and available jobs here in this country.
I mean, there is a bit of a disconnect, and one of the things, as it relates to this Fort Hood issue, is the last thing we want employers to think is that, if you serve in Iraq or Afghanistan, you're going to come back with PTSD, therefore you're not going to make for a great employer. That's just not true. We're, highly talented, highly motivated individuals. We want to be employed like everyone else does. I think what really happens is there's a disconnect in between how to apply yourself and how to sell your skills. For the longest time, members of the military are told what to do, where to be, how to do it, and those sorts of things.
Yeah.
But when you're looking for a job, you got to kind of be self-motivated, be really just, apply yourself. And, spending 3, 5, 10 years in the military being told what to do, it's a little bit more difficult. So it's just a matter of taking your talents, making an employer really buy into what you have to do, and just try to go from there.
And are people getting that kind of assistance and training on?
There's been a lot of reforms instituted through some legislation in years past. I know First Lady and Dr. Biden have been real big pushers for this. But really, at the end of the day, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And if you're not out there sort of selling yourself as a competent, capable potential employee, as a veteran of wars in Iraq or Afghanistan, it's going to be a lot harder to find a job. So we're just trying to...
Life is a lot better because of the good work you're doing at IAVA. Thank you, Nick. Thanks for your service, and thanks for coming in this morning.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Bill Press Show.
So this is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing down, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Monday morning, April 7. It is The Bill Press Show indeed, coming to you live from our nation's capital. On our studio on Capitol Hill, 33 minutes after the hour. Hope you had a good weekend, and thank you for being with us this Monday morning. We have talked many times about the amazing change in public opinion on two issues, marriage equality, not that they're related, but two issues that we've really seen major change in the right direction, in my opinion, on marriage equality, same-sex marriage, and on legalization, or at least on reducing the penalties for marijuana around this country. And now we've seen a lot of progress right here in our neighboring state of Maryland. Major Neill Franklin is Executive Director of Law Enforcement Against Prohibition, or LEAP, joining us again in studio this morning. Major, good to see you.
Pleasure to be back.
You've been hard at work, moving around the country.
Very
like
hard
Johnny
work.
Appleseed here.
Just got back from Seattle a couple of days ago.
All right. Now, where is Seattle now? Colorado not only legalized pot, but they got their stores out there. What is it, 1,000 stores or so, and they're making money, and they're making all kinds of surprisingly amount of new tax revenue from the sale of pot. Yeah. And Washington State still hasn't put it into action
They'll
yet.
catch up rather quickly.
Think so?
Yeah. They're just in the final stages of putting together their policy and all the details of their policy regarding the regulation pieces, and they'll roll it out relatively soon, I think within the next month or two. I expected it to be by April, but they're a little behind.
Yeah. It is more complicated than people think.
Oh, it is.
There was a New Yorker story about what's happening in Washington State. Well, you have to decide how much you're going to sell it for, who gets a license to sell it, where it's sold, and what law enforcement does about it, for example, and all those things.
But see, here's the thing, and I have absolutely no problem with them taking their time. While out there, I met with the city attorney from Seattle, Pete Holmes. Mm-hmm. And, when they passed the law, over a year ago, immediately Pete Holmes just wiped everything clean from the books of the prosecutor's office, for cases, possession cases, So the good thing is no one's getting arrested. Okay.
I see. So
no one's going to jails, prison, but they're taking their time with the policy and making sure that it's right where they want it, and making sure that the police are up to speed and that they're trained and they know exactly what they can do and what they can't do. And I think it's important. So I have no problem with what they're doing.
All right. So Colorado and Washington State have moved. Can Maryland be far behind?
I sure hope not.
Where are we in the state of Maryland?
Well, where we are this year, and the session ends midnight tonight. So we had two main bills, a tax and regulate bill, and we had a decriminalization bill. Mm-hmm. That went through the legislature this year. So tax and regulate didn't make it, but the good thing about that, last year we had 4 co-sponsors on the tax and regulate bill. This year we had 32.
Whoa.
So that was a big
Tax
step.
and regulate would basically be legalization.
Yeah. Like Colorado, Washington, similar. So, that was that's a success story.
Sure.
Okay. We didn't expect it to go, but what we wanted to go was decrim. Okay, so we're no longer arresting people. And I think the policy, I haven't seen the exact wording for the policy, but I think it's going to be 10 grams or less. You won't be arrested. Maximum of $100 fine, civil penalty. And that's what we're going to end up with in Maryland. It's already gone through the Senate. The House moved it through over the weekend, despite the opposition from the chair of the Judiciary Committee. That says a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, that says a lot. So now we'll just need the signature of the governor.
I was going to say the House and Senate have done it, so it's up to the governor.
It's up to the governor.
Has the governor taken a public position on the issue?
Well, he's taken a public position on tax and regulate, no.
Yeah.
But we haven't heard anything regarding decrim. So I guess I'm sure that our wonderful media folks are trying to find out that answer right now.
I would think so. And also for Martin O'Malley, who, by the way, I think he's done a great job as governor. He has certainly some ambitions for 2016. In the Democratic primary,
if he's smart, he'll sign it.
He's so smart, he'll sign
he'll
it.
Sign
exactly,
it.
Right.
Yeah, if he's looking at polling numbers as it relates to decrim, those polling numbers are very, very high across the country. I believe well above 70%.
Yeah. Oh, boy. And do you know how much time he has? Usually, a month or so? I forget. For governor to make up his mind.
I'm not sure. Once the session ends tonight, I'm not sure. But I'm sure that he's going to be receiving a lot of emails, a lot of letters, and a lot of phone calls from people.
So what do you see around the country? Are other states moving toward either decrim or tax and regulate?
Absolutely. Well, right here in D.C., they just passed the decrim bill. So let's look at tax and regulate because that's really where I'm from. That's where LEAP is from, and that's what we believe needs to happen. We know it needs to happen in order for us to reduce crime, violent crime, and so on. So, Alaska, keep your eye on Alaska. Keep your eye on Oregon.
By the way, you just got to say Alaska. There's such independent frontier up there, living in their own world. I mean, why wouldn't they do this, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
But do they have actual laws up there that they still abide by? Or is it
any laws, right?
Dodge City out there.
Well, my question is there a long enough growing season in Alaska to grow their own, or do they have to import it?
Well, greenhouses work wonderfully.
Yes.
Yeah.
Duh.
Yeah.
I mean, that's from what I've seen, that's where the best marijuana is grown. That's where the best cannabis is grown.
And even
in states where we have great growing seasons, because you can control, the pollen, and you can, it's a very controlled atmosphere. This is a skill, in growing good cannabis.
It's a big business too, and I think, if I'm correct, in Colorado, only pot grown in greenhouses can be sold in the dispensaries there. I think
that's right. There was Rolling Stone did a great big piece. This was several months ago now, but right as the Colorado thing was ramping up, and the guys and ladies who are growing marijuana out there now are pure artisans, right? I mean, we would look at them the same way that we do, these artisan coffee roasters or things like that. I mean, they take it very, very, very seriously.
Proud of what they do.
Yeah. And the stereotype of the slacker stoner is slowly dying off with these people who know what they're doing. They take it very seriously. They work very hard at it.
They're like micro brews.
It's exactly right.
That's it.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Right.
I mean, they're
all right. So you mentioned
people.
Alaska.
Come over to the East Coast. Keep your eye on Rhode Island. I look at most of your New England states. I keep an eye on most of them, like maybe.
I know Maine is thinking about it, right? Isn't it?
Yeah, Maine is. I don't know if their governor is there yet, but obviously the people are definitely there.
Right.
A couple other states up there. Connecticut, I'm not sure yet, but they've always been rather progressive in this area. So this whole Northeast region, I'd keep an eye on the entire Northeast, really.
Wow.
But yeah, so I think, and I'm talking about over the next 2 years, between now and 2016. After 2016, depending upon, and so much is going to happen between now and then. I don't even think it matters regarding who's going to be in the White House.
No kidding. Yeah. I think California too will be coming on.
California,
I've
2016.
voted for it at least twice in California. Give us another shot and we'll get it passed. Right.
Yeah. They'll be there in 2016.
And
for sure.
You had a very interesting finding among law enforcement with a poll that you conducted recently at LEAP. So it's not just the general populace that has swung in terms of public opinion about cannabis. It's the law enforcement officials as well, right?
Yeah. Lawofficer.com did a poll on with law officers about marijuana legalization, decrim, and asked some basic questions about, what do they feel we should do in those areas. And overwhelmingly, the majority of our police officers believe that we should end the prohibition of marijuana and move towards legalization. They realize that it doesn't work. And I'm certain that most of the people who responded to this poll are the men and women who are in the trenches, the ones who are out in the communities, in the neighborhoods, fighting this war. And they would much rather spend their time going after pedophiles, people committing crimes against our children, rapists, dealing with domestic violence, dealing with assaults and robberies. That's police work.
Yeah.
That's protecting people from people. And that's what we should be doing.
And not protecting them from themselves,
absolutely,
right? And getting a little enjoyment or relaxation or
absolutely.
whatever.
But we hold people responsible for what they do, if they happen to be under the influence of something just like alcohol, which is our most problematic drug of all time. When it comes to policing and law enforcement.
I think it's very powerful and should be very telling to people to elected officials, that if the law enforcement community, the numbers I saw were pretty striking there, Major. 66% in that survey saying marijuana possession, this is of law enforcement officers, 66% marijuana possession should be legalized, decriminalized, or legalized for medical reasons, or illegal but only punished with fines.
Right.
I mean, so...
That's a sky-high number.
No. That is 2/3 of law enforcement officers are saying the current system doesn't work.
That polling, rank and file, folks working in the trenches. Now, what we saw in Annapolis, over the past couple of months, law enforcement came out in opposition of both legalization and decriminalization, but it wasn't the rank and file. It was the Sheriff's Association and Maryland Chiefs.
Yeah.
Okay, and their main issue, and this really does not sit so well with me, their main issue was that it would drastically affect their ability to search people.
Ooh.
See, most of the searches that we do
to see if they
rest squarely upon marijuana violations. And, so that takes me to this place of the Fourth Amendment. And what we use in law enforcement to get into your pockets and into your car and into your homes. And I think it's wrong. It's just wrong.
Yeah, good point. Neill Franklin here from LEAP, Law Enforcement Against Prohibition, leading the way for tax and regulate, or at least for decrim across the country. Yeah, join the conversation here. Your questions, your comments about something happening in your community, 866-55-PRESS. All of our good friends from Colorado, out in Denver, let us know how it's going with you, if you're enjoying this new freedom. 866-55-77-377.
This is the Bill Press Show.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Columbine, Virginia Tech,
Tucson,
Aurora,
Fort Hood, Oak Creek,
Newtown.
Newtown,
Newtown.
Newtown.
How many more?
How many more? How many more colleges? How many more classrooms?
How many more movie theaters?
How many more houses of faith?
How many more shopping malls?
How many more street corners?
How many more?
How many more?
Enough. 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 Enough.
Demand a plan.
Right now. As a mom.
As a dad. As a friend. As a husband.
As a wife.
As an American.
As an American.
As an American.
As a human being.
For the children of Sandy Hook.
Demand a plan. No more lists of names. It's not too soon.
It's too late.
Now is the time.
Before we all know someone who loved someone on that list.
No more lists.
No more.
Who they might have been. No more.
If we had just done something yesterday. It's time.
We can do better than this.
We can do better than this.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time for our leaders to act.
Demand a plan. Right now.
Right now.
You! Demand it!
Enough.
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 None of us would want to be told we can't marry the person we love. As Americans, we believe in freedom. That's what I fought for as a Marine, and that's what we believe in as Republicans. Freedom means freedom for everyone. I didn't used to understand the importance of same-sex marriage, but after learning my brother was gay, I wanted the same rights for him. He was the best man at my wedding, and I want to be the best man at his. It's only fair that Calvin should have the freedom to marry the person he loves, too.
It's time for marriage.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
11 minutes before the top of the hour. Pot, we're talking here on The Bill Press Show. And many states taking a more relaxed and a more intelligent approach to the use of marijuana, led by Colorado and Washington State, of course. Out in front, leading the way is LEAP, Law Enforcement Against Prohibition. Executive Director Major Neill Franklin in the studio with us. Neill, always good to see you again. A couple of quick comments before we get back. Peter.
We're on Twitter at BP Show. Guy puts it out there, asks, or he says, I think Rand Paul has the best chance of capturing a good bit of the vote by staying with his libertarian view of marijuana. So then that gets to the national aspect of, we've seen these states handle it state by state. So nationally, from a political standpoint, who's leading the way on it?
Yeah, well, nationally, there's still, what's it, House Resolution 1523, I believe it is, that's out there, and it's getting a lot of support. More of our representatives are coming on board, every day, and that is to return states' rights.
Oh, yeah.
For marijuana,
sure.
To the states.
Well, right. And to their credit, the Obama administration has said they will stay out of the way in Colorado and Washington.
Absolutely. So, we have that as well as an effort to remove marijuana, or at least get it out of the Schedule I category, which Schedule I means there's no medicinal value to it and it's highly addictive. Oh, my God.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Definitely doesn't belong in Schedule I. But many people believe it should be removed completely from the scheduling system, similar to alcohol.
All right. Let's go out to Denver, Colorado. Hello, Brant. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, guys.
What's up?
I wanted to say that I'm a grower here in Denver, and I think that we are a model for the world, actually. It's so tightly regulated here. There's cameras everywhere. They track it from seed to sale. I mean, there's no way that stuff is going to get diverted. And, I really feel like that we're leading the charge here, and anybody who wants to see how it should be done, come check it out.
I have a question in terms of because I know a lot of pieces I've read about guys growing marijuana. They're very particular. They're very protective of how they do things. How is the government working with you, the grower? Are they interfering at all?
They're not. I mean, they're not trying to really help out that much, to be honest with you. We can't deduct any expenses. We have issues with banking right now. Supposedly, Washington's passing a law to help with the banking issues, but I'm not sure where that is at the moment. But they hadn't really been, in trying to be a hindrance either, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. How'd you get your license, Brent?
I moved here from the Southeast, and it's just something that I've believed in a while, for a long time, and came out here once everything got going. Been out here for a little while now, and just you have to go through a rigorous process. You can't have any felonies. Mm-hmm. They do an extensive background check. I mean, there's lots you have to go through.
But so Neill, hey Brent, so good to hear from you, and we'll get your name and number here, and we're going to make a field trip here to Denver before long. So we'll
awesome.
Take a tour.
We'll come by, take a little tour, sample the product. But Major, this makes your point, I guess, right? This is a whole new business opportunity here.
I've toured some of the facilities in Denver and in Colorado, and like Brent said, I mean, they're tightly controlled. Seed to sale. Cameras. You got to have certain security measures in place. You got to track everything that you do. And that's how it should be. Of all the people that you've seen in pictures and videos standing in line at these stores buying marijuana, I didn't see any kids. Mm-hmm. Okay, but I see kids on a street corner not just buying marijuana, but selling marijuana. Okay, so this is the difference, and not only that, you're separating those who use marijuana from people who are also selling other drugs like heroin or meth. So they're going to a place that sells only marijuana, and it takes them out of that dangerous environment of the street corners and back alleys.
Yeah, that's where we're moving so much with the leadership of LEAP. Again, it's leap.cc, Law Enforcement Against Prohibition. Executive Director Neill Franklin. So good to see you again, Neill.
Pleasure.
Thanks for your good help. Maybe we'll have a couple more states online next time we see you.
I hope so.
All right. And we'll be back, wrap things up here on this Monday edition of The Bill Press Show.
This is The Bill Press Show.
Don't look at me. Your hair's a bit frizzy today. Aww. You should pick that up. Oh, you're such a dork, loser. Here, let me help you with that. Oops.
Every day, kids witness bullying.
Oh, look. Your crush is looking at you. Poor you.
They want to help, but don't know how.
See, no one here's gonna help you, because no one
Teach your kids how to be more than a bystander. Visit stopbullying.gov.
If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. You could lose everything. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
When some people struggle with their mortgage payments, they become frozen, petrified. Not knowing what to do, they do nothing. But the people who take action are far more likely to get the most positive outcome. Making home affordable is a free government program. Call now to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about the options that are right for you. Real help, real answers, right now.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
The Parting Shot with Bill Press. This is the Bill Press Show.
Well, such a jam-packed show today, so full of great guests and topics that we don't even have time for a parting shot for today.
That's right, an embarrassment of riches.
That's right, but it's a good one, and we might even save it for tomorrow. Meanwhile, I've got a big day ahead of me with a White House briefing. I've changed to noon now, and I'm sure you've got a lot of big things planned as well, so make the most of it. Enjoy some great basketball tonight. I'm going to call it right now for Kentucky.
Okay. All right.
My friend Sam Youngman, I got to stick with him. Be loyal to Kentucky. We'll see what happens, and we'll wrap it up and talk about it all right here again tomorrow morning.
This is the Bill Press Show.